Hello there everyone. Today I want to show you how to make this braided wire bracelet, and it looks like this. So this is the effect that you can get. Now I'm just using a copper and a silver coloured wire here for this, and with the copper coloured wire I've made a kind of effect within each section. I'm just using twisted wire, but to give a bit of an effect that it's actually braided within each section as well, and then making the 3-strand braid to make the full bracelet. So this is what I'm going to show you how to make today. Now what I just want to say as well, if you want to stay up to date with what I'm doing and things that are coming up and get a few sneak peeks and that for the future, then you'll find me in a few other different places as well. So down below in the description box there's a lot of links to where else you can find me, so places like Facebook, Tumblr and Instagram, so you can go and have a look there and follow me if you want to. But otherwise, let's get started with the tutorial. So these are the things that we'll need. Now first off we'll need our wire here because that's the main part of the bracelet. I have two different gauges and colours as well. The first one here is my silver wire, and this is a 1mm wire, and that's what we're going to use to kind of cage in and frame the copper wire. And the copper wire that I'm using here is a 0.6mm wire. This is the wire that we're going to twist and then use twisted within the bracelet. And up here I have my ribbon ends, and these are 12mm in width, and I'm going to use these to finish off the ends of my bracelet. And then I also just have the findings that I'm going to use, so my jump rings, my lost or claw clasp and extender chain, but you can obviously use whatever you want to use. So let's get it all together and let's get started. So the first thing that we need to do is cut our wire ready, and what I'm going to need for this is two different kinds of wire. The first one here being the twisted wire that I'm going to be using, and in this case I'm just using the copper wire as a twisted one. You can obviously switch them around or use other colours if you want to. Then what I've got here is 6 lengths of twisted wire of about 50cm each. So that means what I did was I took one long length of about 1 metre, folded that in half and then twisted that length, and then that turns into this about 50cm long twist. And I did that 6 times, and what I made sure to do as well is, as you can see, I've got kind of 2 groups here. I made sure to 3 of them I twisted in one direction and the other 3 I twisted in the opposite direction, because what I want to do is we're going to make that 3-strand braid, so we're going to have 2 twisted wires in each of them sections. So what I'm going to do is take one length from the wires that are twisted in one direction and one length that are twisted in the opposite direction, put those 2 together, and then when they lie next to each other like this, they almost kind of look like it's a braid in themselves, so you get that really nice effect. So that's why I wanted to do it this way. So these are the twisted wires that we need, and if you're not quite sure how to twist your own wire, I have a video that shows how to do that already, so I'm going to put a link to that in the description box below. And then the other wire that I'm using is my silver wire in this case, and this is what's going to kind of be the border of each section. So what I'm using here is my 1mm wire, and again I have 6 lengths of about 50cm each, so just as long as your twisted strands are as well. So we're also going to use 2 of these for each section. That means I'm going to get 2 of my twisted, have them lie next to each other, and then 2 of these to kind of be the borderline for those and kind of make those middle ones, the copper ones, stand out. So that's how I'm going to be doing this. That's what we'll need for each section, and this is all the wires that we're going to need. So then what we need to do is set all the wires up before we can start making the braid. And to do this you can do a couple of different things. You can either use some tape that I'm going to be using here in this case, show you how to set it up with this. This is just some insulation tape. It's not going to damage the wire or anything either. But also you can use a clamp or anything else that you just feel comfortable working with. But then what I'm going to do is take one piece of tape first and then start on the first section to begin with, and I'm going to take kind of one wire at a time here. I've got all the wires ready that I want for this section, so 2 of my silver ones and 2 of the twisted. Remember, the twisted ones need to be opposite twisted of each other. So I get one at a time here, put my silver one on first, and I want to make sure to just leave a bit of space on the top of the tape there, so you have a little bit of the end coming out the other side. And then I'm going to get my twisted wires here. Like I said, remembering to take opposite ones, place them right next to the previous one. So all the wires are going to be lying right next to each other, so flat next to each other basically. And just try and keep it as flat as possible. Like that, and the last silver one to get the other side of the section. Just like this. hold it flat, and then what I'm just going to do is use the tape to fold around it here to keep it in place and make sure it stays flat next to each other basically. So just use the tape, go around here, and just make sure to press it down nicely. So just like that, and then that's the first section. So now we need to make the next section as well. So then take this and then your next piece of tape, so just some small pieces that you got ready here, place that underneath the previous one, just so we're connecting them all together as well. Just like that. And then I'm just going to use this to build the next section. So take one silver one first, make sure to just leave a little bit at the top there. Then take one of my twisted ones, and just have a look at your wires as well. If you want to make sure that kind of the twisted ones there in the middle go in the same direction on all your sections, just look at them closely. Grab the next twisted, make sure it's the one twisted the opposite direction to get that nice effect. And your last silver one, just like that. And then we just do the same thing, make sure the line flat, so keep hold of them, and then put your tape around it and press it down. So that's the next section. So you just want to do this with the last one as well, and then once you've done that, we're all ready and have all the sections set up. So now that I've attached all my sections and I'm happy with how they're sitting next to each other there, what we just need to do is use these little ends that I told you to leave at the top of the tape, so the other side there. If you're using a clamp, you can obviously just clamp them down how you want them to sit, but with the tape method, what we just need to do is to prevent the wires here from pulling through the tape as we start making the braid. We just need to take a flat nose or chain nose pliers, and then just grab your wires on the other side here, and then bend them backwards. So they're basically just making a little hook towards the back of the tape there. And don't worry about doing it fancy or neat, because it's just basically to secure it and make it easier to then make the braid without worrying about them pulling out. So just bend it back around the tape, because in that way, even though they might move a little bit, once they reach the top of them hooks that you're making, it won't pull all the way through. So it's just a little tip to make it easier to begin with. Make sure you do with all of the wires. So just like this, and don't worry about it being fancy, because we'll be cutting this off at the end anyway. So there we go. We've now put it all how we want it to sit, and we're now ready to start making the braid. So now the braid that we're going to be making is a regular 3-strand braid. So the braid is simple enough. The trickiest part here is right at the beginning, because we haven't started the braid yet. Once we start the braid, the sections will naturally kind of separate as well, so it's going to make it a lot easier. But then also, you want to make sure throughout to just keep an eye on each section that you're using, because all you want to make sure to do is make sure it stays flat throughout, so your wires within a section don't cross over each other as well, because that's what we want to avoid, to keep that neat look throughout. So you just want to kind of gently separate your sections out here. So we have 4 wires in each section, 2 of the twisted and then 2 of the silver there, plain wires. And then to start making the braid, all we want to do, like a regular 3-strand braid, is start from either side, and then just try and make sure that they stay flat like I said. I'm just going to start from the left side, bring that over the middle section, and then bring that in towards the middle there. And then the beginning here, like I said, is going to be the trickiest part, keeping them flat as well. So just readjust it before you move on to the next one. And also the very beginning part of the braid might not be the neatest, but that's why it's better to make a bit longer than what you'll need, because we can always cut that off at the end then. So you now have that in towards the middle. Try and make sure that they stay flat. Now go to the other side. Bring that over the one you just brought into the middle. And then leave that in the middle. And then just kind of gently put curves into your wire as well. It'll come more naturally once we've actually created some more braid. but just right here at the beginning to make the section sit correctly. And just keep checking that all the sections are lying flat. Go back to the other side again, bring it over the middle one, and then into the middle, like that. And now it's slowly starting to form a proper braid. Go to the other side again. What I like to do is kind of right where the previous ones cross over each other, I like to hold that with my fingers and then take further down my wires here, keep this section nice and flat, and then bring it over and into the middle, because that way you get a really nice and gentle curve, and make sure it stays flat. And like I said, just keep going back and checking the section that you're just working with, and bring it into the middle like that. Go back to the other side, do the same, and this is just how you want to keep going then. And then gradually you'll build more and more braid. And like I said as well, it's still a little bit loose because we're right at the beginning, but once you create it more, it'll become a lot easier, because then your sections will naturally be more separated, and you'll kind of find your rhythm as well on how you want to do your braid. As you can see, it's slowly starting to form. So you just want to keep doing this gently and keep an eye on it throughout. If you kind of see somewhere, like say if this section they kind of crossed over and I put it in place, they went to the next one, and then I just noticed that I made a mistake there, they crossed over, rather try and go back and just fix it there and then wait till the end, because it's easier to do throughout. Because once we're done with the braid, your wires are kind of set in place where you left them, and then it's a lot harder to fix then. So just keep an eye on your wires throughout, make sure your sections stay flat, and then keep braiding until you run out of wire, and then I'll show you how we finish off the bracelet. So I've now continued braiding here until I'm completely done, all the way down, so I have one long length of my braid now. Now one little tip I want to give you as well is if you want to make more than one of these bracelets, what I recommend you do is that you work with much longer lengths of wire and basically just do one continuous length of your braid, so however much you can manage to work with, because then the best way to do then is then afterwards cut out the sections, the length that you need for each bracelet if that's what you want to use it for, because that way by doing that and then having one long length cutting them out, you have a lot less wastage instead of making one of these for each individual bracelet. So that's just a little tip if you want to make more than one bracelet here. So then what we need to do is take this braid and then turn it into a bracelet. So first off, I just want to cut down this end to get rid of these excess little tails so they don't keep poking me. And then I'm just going to take my flush cutters for that. You can also use regular cutters, wire cutters, and just go across basically in a straight line, cutting off a few wires at a time here. Just so we get a nice neat end that we can then use as well to finish off the bracelet with the ribbon ends that we're going to be using. So just go all the way across. So once we've finished off one end of our braid here, we now need to figure out how long we want the bracelet to be. So I'm just going to get my measuring tape in, and I want mine to be about 7 to 7.5 inches. So that means that I go from 0 here and then up to, I'm going to take it to 7 inches, because we've got to remember the clasp that we're going to add as well is going to add a bit of length, roughly about half an inch depending on what you're using. So I'm just going to start cutting across again here the exact same way. So find your point where you want to start cutting it, and then you just go across in a straight line as well again. And this is what I meant as well when I said it's better to make a long length of braid if you want to make multiple bracelets, because then you cut it here, go all the way across the braid, and then once you're done you have a straight cut in between separating your braid, and you can just go across and start making your next bracelet straight away. That's why it's quite convenient doing that instead. You'll have a lot less wastage. So go all the way across again here. So we have this other end nice and neat, and then all that's left to do is finish off both ends and turn it into the bracelet. So I now have my full length of braid here. That's long enough, it's going to become the bracelet. So what we need to do is finish off these ends by putting the ribbon ends here on top of there. That way you're also going to make sure you cover up all the ends of your wires. There's nothing that's going to catch or scratch on any skin or anything. But before I put them on, what I'm just going to do is on each end here, I'm going to take my chain nose or flat nose pliers and just grab about 1 millimeter or 2 down each individual wire here and just start bending it gently. The outer ones I always bend inwards, because otherwise you can risk that they might be sticking out the side of your ribbon in there. So just to avoid that, the outside ones I always bend inwards. But just take one wire at a time and just gently bend it a little bit back and forth. Because the reason for this is I'm also going to be putting glue inside the ribbon end. But if I'm just leaving the wire straight like this, once I add glue and then add it on top, there's more of a chance that over time it'll end up being able to just pull out, because these are obviously straight wires. Now if you put a bit of kinks in there right at the ends, it adds a bit more kind of friction to the inside of the ribbon end for it to stay on a lot better long term as well. So that's why I like to do this. So just go all the way across, bending the very ends here, just gently without obviously distorting the end of your braid. So now that you've done that, just kink the ends in a little bit. I'm going to take my first ribbon end and then I'm also going to take my glue. Now what I'm going to be using here is the E6000. I prefer to use this for this kind of thing because it's very strong and also it dries clear, so if anything comes out a little bit on the sides or something, you won't be able to see it that easily. So I'm going to open that and then I'm just going to use a toothpick here to apply it with. So just get a little bit on the toothpick. We don't need that much because it's just to go inside the ribbon end there to begin with. Just get it right in there, all the way down to the bottom, and then I also cut up the sides of it to make sure that it's going to be a nice bond between the ribbon end here, the inside of it, and then the end of my braid. So just like this nicely. Like I said, don't put too much in there because when you clamp it down it's just going to come spilling out anyway. And then I'm also just going to take a little bit more glue. Again, it doesn't have to be too much. Also, we can always add more. It's easier to add more glue if it's not quite enough. And then I'm just going to add a little bit to right at the end of my braid here. And basically just get it right in there between the wires. So all the ones I just bent a little bit and kinked right at the end as well. Just like that. Because that way you're going to get a really nice bond. You're making sure the glue really goes in there and grabs on. And it's going to last a lot better. Then once I've done that, I'm happy with the glue. I'm going to add my ribbon end on top here, at the end of the braid. And then I like to hold my braid here with my hand and then have my fingers on the sides. Take some flat nose or chain nose, and then you need to clamp this down. Now I don't go in on one side and just clamp all the way down. I like to start on one side and then gently do a bit at a time, working my way back and forth across the ribbon end there. Take it out and look at it and see if you're happy with how it's sitting, and if you are, then once you're almost clamped all the way down, then just do your last squeeze here so it becomes nice and tight. And obviously now the glue is still wet, but once we clamp this down and we're happy, we're going to let it dry as well. And I always just clamp down the sides as well. So just like this. So that end is attached now, and if there's any excess glue that's come out, you can always just wipe it off now or wait till it dries and then peel it off. So that's the one end finish. You want to do the same with the other end. Then once you've done that, you want to then add your findings as well, and then all that's left to do is shape it into the bracelet shape. So I've now finished off both ends here and I've let the glue dry, and then I've also attached my findings, so the clasp and the extender chain. So all that's left to do now is shape it. Now if you have something of the size and shape that you want it to be, then you can fold it around that and just gently mold it like that. Otherwise you can also just use your hands. So what I recommend doing is you don't go in one place and make a big bend. What you need to do is start kind of in one place, work your way across and gradually put more and more of a curve into it. So just gradually, do it gently to get a nice curve rather than go to the middle and say and do a big bend. It'll kind of just distort it out of shape rather. So just take your time doing this, moving across, and then you'll gradually see more and more of a bracelet shape until your two ends there meet So just keep doing this until you reach this shape that you want it to be. So now I got it into the shape that I want, and then basically your bracelet will be done. And it looks like this. So a really nice and simple bracelet, but with quite a big impact, especially because of the different tones and colours of wire. So that's how it looks, and that's how you make this bracelet. So I really hope that you enjoyed this tutorial, and thank you very much for watching. Hello there everyone. Today I want to show you how to make this wirework snake bracelet. And this is what it looks like. So this is the effect that you get. And I've just chosen silver and a red colour in the wire. You can also choose whatever you want. And also you can change up the gauge if you want to. But I'm just going to show you the technique of how to do this. So if you want to learn how to make it, then keep watching.